Oh, what's happening, world? How's everybody doing out there? This is me, Cam, and this is still the Real Resilience Talk podcast. This is going to be episode 5-1 over, and this show, like I always tell y'all, is inspired by and motivated by that good old First Amendment, right? First Amendment. I defend it, I'm going to represent it, and I might as well expend it while I can. So that freedom of speech to be able to express myself. As I've said before, nothing on here is a reflection of any official organization or any branch of service or anything of that nature. We all have our own day jobs. We all have our own affiliations with things, but this show is not a representation of any of that, nor an endorsement from any of that. Now, I may endorse some of that because I think service is important for us all, but no endorsement from those places. You understand? So don't try to get me canceled. I'm using my First Amendment the same way some of y'all are in camis or in uniform on duty doing TikTok videos and y'all still around. So I'm going to go ahead and have an honest conversation about the subject of resilience. That's what I'm going to do, which, as I've said before, resilience to me, I'm just going to quote Stallone in good old Rocky 37 or whatever it was. It ain't about you, it's about you can get it and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done, because we're going to take hits in this life. That's just the way it is. Not a matter of if, but when. But I think if we can have conversations now on this end of it, when things may not be, or they may be challenging at a certain moment. But it reminds me of what Epictetus said. He said, "What ought one to say as each hardship comes? I was practicing for this. I was training for this." I got to tell y'all, if you look up nobody else in history, I mean, there's so many greats, and I try to reference them and acknowledge them on this show all the time. But Epictetus was literally a slave in ancient times, and he, his name translated to the acquired one. He was property, y'all. So look up that guy, Epictetus. So it's Epictetus. Just made a big impact on history in the world. And was he a perfect person? Hell no, he wasn't. But he didn't give up, and he kept moving forward. And them hard times come, it's, what ought one to say as each hardship comes. I was practicing for this. I was training for this. So I'm hoping that we too can do that in our lives. And hopefully by talking about subjects like this, that, when we get met with that adversity, we have a choice to either be bitter and broken by it and let it push us down and stop us, or we can choose to say, you know what, I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to, as Sam Cooke said, keep moving on. It's a great song if you ain't heard that one. I post it all the time on social media. I'm there, Coach Cam _Campbell on all the social media platforms. This show today I'm going to do, okay, always, all these things are inspired by, the First Amendment, and every single one of these episodes is pretty much for as far as a living person. Obviously, that living document, that First Amendment inspires me, but a human being, great, that was not popular at her time. So just know that certain things are not, and certain people are not popular or fully understood at their time, but later on we tend to appreciate them more. And that person I'm talking about is the great Dr. Maya Angelou, when she said, if you don't like something, you change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. That's where I'm coming from with this whole show. And to further emphasize what Epictetus talks about, he talks about the circle of, control and the circle of concern, and the things we have control over and the things we don't have control over, right? And that's essentially the serenity prayer for anyone going through recovery or has been through addiction or just is trying to find a peaceful, serene way of life. The serenity prayer is amazing, but it's rooted in that stoicism and then Epictetus's teachings of circle of control and circle of concern, circle of what's in my control, circle of what's not in my control, and then trying our best to move forward with what we can't control. So if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. I'd also add, she probably was at the same time saying, or shut up, because so many of us want to talk about stuff, want to point fingers at stuff. We need someone to blame or shame, but it's really hard to own our situation and take ownership over the thing that is in front of us, that hardship, and see what we can do to make it better. So that's what we're here for. But this episode, before I digress even more than I already do, this episode was encouraged and suggested by a gladiator friend of mine. She is a warrior. She is an unselfish human, and she hit me up and she had a great suggestion and said, you know what, Cam, so many of us, either have kids or are in a position to influence kids or, the youth, right? So this could be your child, your parent, or just, you work with some people that are younger than you, or you're a coach or you're a mentor of some sort. So this isn't just exclusive to parents. Okay, let me say that. But the subject of today that I want to talk about real briefly is, why is resilience important for our kids? We could all sit here and claim that these are, soft times for human beings. And these are, we're getting so soft and we're so weak and all of those things, and we could be negative. Or we can think about, how can we be made stronger during those times, right? Whereas life circumstances may have made people earn calluses just by the day-to-day labor of what they had to do. Now we have to take our ass to the gym and health clubs or exercise or do certain manual labor things on our own time to stay strong, to stay focused. And that's I'm using a physical analogy there and a physical example, but it applies to everything, right? Right now it's harder than, it's a different kind of hard right now. Our ancestors who paved these ways for us to be here, and the circumstances that were at hand forced them to be able to survive and to thrive in certain ways. Well, some of us feel like house cats in our modern times. And I've talked about on episodes before from the studies of Dr. Anna Lemke with the Dopamine Nation book and her studies. I'm telling you, look her up. Look up Dr. Andrew Huberman when he talks about the mid-cingulate cortex, I think it is. I think that's what it is. But you can Google it and it'll be like, what'd you mean? So, but Andrew Huberman had Dr. Anna Lemke on his show, and a great episode, powerful episode, just so powerful. But look her up, Anna Lemke. She's a professor at Stanford on addiction and just a lot of good things to make us better. But one of the things she describes is that this is unprecedented times for us as humans. We've never had it like this, to where we can literally stay in our home all day long. We don't have to leave at all, and all of our human needs can be met. That's never happened with any of our ancestors. So our hard is a different kind of hard. Before, communities were created because they literally depended on each other. So you had to interact with other people. Now we kind of don't have to, but we still need to have that connection to people. So how do we do these things in our times? So, but I think for any of us that are older, it's on us to try to help these young ones to be more resilient, to be strong, to be able to weather these storms, to be able to do what Epictetus said, which is, what ought one to say as each hardship comes? You are practicing for this. We were training for this. Now, that doesn't mean be a masochist or anything like that, but a little bit of selective stress and hardness on your body, hardship, or on your mind, plus recovery time will equal growth. Now, stress upon stress upon stress upon stress with no healthy release or no healthy time to recover, well, that will lead to overwhelm and burning out and just all bad to go things. So we don't want to go that route. But how can we grow? How can we not just go through things, but how can we grow through things? And how can we be resilient? And what is resilience? Well, I said my definition, and I usually ask every guest on here, but I went ahead and looked it up. I even used ChatGPT to look it up. Resilience is the ability to adapt and recover in the face of adversity, challenges, or trauma. It involves emotional strength, mental flexibility, and a proactive approach to difficulties. Resilient individuals can bounce back from setbacks, learn from experiences, and maintain a positive outlook despite hardships. Key factors contributing to resilience include a supportive social network, people need people, problem-solving skills, and a sense of purpose. Cultivating resilience can lead to improved mental health, better stress management, and enhanced overall well-being. In a rapidly changing world, resilience is increasingly recognized as a vital skill for personal and professional success. So there's a lot of words right there, right? But I think if you listen to what I was saying right there, some of the things that bounce back from setbacks, have a positive outlook despite hardships, right? So not happy talk, not some being naive, but to actually look at the situation and try to find the opportunity in the obstacle that is before us. And you can look up Ryan Holiday for him. Anybody out there that does not know who Ryan Holiday is, he's kind of a resurrector of a lot of things Stoic. Him and what Don Robertson, I think his name is. There's a lot of great people that have kind of resurrected. Sharon LaBelle as well. You can look her up. Something that is just timeless, and that's Stoicism and the approach to living as best as we can with what we have. And it boils down to that circle of control, that circle of concern, the things we have control over, the things we don't have control over, and thereunto pertaining. And all of it, you know, you might not agree with all of it. I can't say I agree with every single bit of it, but it's rooted in a resilience. It just really is. And to have a positive outlook, not naive, not saying this thing like some toxic positivity where no matter what, you have to be positive and everything's perfect. No, that's not true. Sometimes things just suck. But can we go ahead and endure the situation, learn from the situation, and then grow through the situation? So my point with this episode is to talk about why is resilience important for our kids. And it's on us as individuals to help this next generation. Look, if you don't like these little assholes, I had a great mentor of mine. He used to always say, you know what? Little assholes become big assholes. So we have to check them. We have to guide them. We have to correct them. We have to be there for them. And sometimes the people who care about you the most are the ones who's going to call you out. The ones who are going to say, hey, that's not it. That's not cool. So keep that in mind the next time somebody tries to maybe correct you on something. Obviously, there are know-it-alls. There are naysayers and all that kind of stuff in life. I mean, it takes time to have judgment and things like that. But the people who really don't give a shit will just watch you just fall on your sword. And someone will just push you on your sword, right? Because they just don't give a shit about you. So sometimes the ones who actually take the time to correct you, they're not condoning your behavior. They're not condoning your outlook. They're not condoning your approach to things. And they're trying to help you be a better version of yourself. And that takes a village. That takes all of us all of the time trying to help each other. Again, there's judgment there. You don't want to approach people in certain places, in certain spaces. Always glorify in public, critique in private, pull somebody aside and talk to them as a human, find out what's going on, and then guide them as best you can to be most effective with that person. But that's why I always talk about know your people so you know how to most effectively reach them. But talking about kids. So there's 7 things right here that I looked up and kind of with the help of ChatGPT and just the help of just good old knowledge to my own brain, I came up with these 7 things. So resilience is crucial for kids because it helps them navigate life's challenges and uncertainties with confidence. And here are a few reasons why resilience is important. 1, coping skills. Wow. How about that? Emotional regulation, problem-solving abilities, confidence and independence, healthy relationships, academic success, and I'd say also professional success. And what you do your job type thing, street sweeper, like I've talked about before, and then long-term well-being. So in summary, resilience equips kids with the tools they need to thrive, not just in childhood, but throughout their lives. One way that you can get to those places, and I said, wow, when I talked about coping skills, is a lot of us lack healthy coping skills. Like I've told y'all before, if all you know to do with your stress is to drink, to watch Pornhub, to get effed up, to play video games, well, all you're going to ever do when you're met with a stressor or you need some release is to do those things. And those things might not be healthy for you, okay? I know they're not healthy for me, right? Especially that drinking one right there, because usually drinking leads to suicide for me in some way, shape, or form, like a Russian roulette. And I know I'm not the only one out there, so that's why I share the story of me, not for attention, but so that we can have empathy for others, because some of the people that we think have it all together are some of the ones who are holding on by a thread on most days. So don't be so quick to judge. You never know the hardships people don't speak of. That's Gangstar right there, if you want to look that up. That's a great song. But coping skills. Resilient kids develop effective coping strategies to manage stress and adversity, making it easy for them to handle tough situations. So, something as simple as journaling or exercise or being a part of something bigger than yourself, right? That kind of bleeds into the other ones too, because these things, as I heard a great general say when he talked about Marine Corps total fitness, about spiritual and social and mental and physical strength and fitness in those domains, they kind of are like the Olympic rings. They're all interconnected. So a lot of these things I'm talking about right now are also interconnected to each other. But look, having those healthy outlets of how to cope with things when things don't go the way you want them to, or when you're met with adversity and hardships, because some of the coping skills that we have, or I don't want to say they're skills, but coping habits, right? Bad habits. Kevin O'Hara talks about that a lot with Habits V2. You can look him up. Great guy, great resource, just doing some great things on YouTube and all over. But you can look him up, Habits V2. But it's bad habits. It's just habits. We got bad habits. And we don't know what we don't know. And you can't always go off of what your normal is, whatever that word means anyway. I don't really know what normal means. But you can't go off of what you've been shown by those around you and in your lifetime, because what your normal may look like may not be what right looks like. And we don't know what we don't know. So exposing ourselves and our kids to healthier coping skills. And then also, as I talked to a great friend of mine, I call him Uncle Alex. He was an MFLAC that I served with in California. He's telling me I used to get worried about my son because he's a lot like me in a lot of my bad ways. He's very impulsive. He's very addictive. He's very obsessive. When he does something, he doesn't do it half-assed at all. He goes all in, and he's very all or nothing, as I am too. So that can be a combination with given the wrong type of thing to cope with. You can make some mistakes you can't take back. And I want him to live without those kind of shame and that guilt and regret and remorse. He's got to live his own life and all that kind of stuff. But how can I best set him up for success? And I don't like to talk to my children in a way to say it's fatalistic, like, oh, we have this that's been in our family, or because this, genetically, you'll automatically be, you're automatically destined to be a this or to be a that. And I don't agree with that. I think your choices make up those end states for you. So without going down that road and planting a seed that maybe could birth into, like, you speak something into existence, you kind of manifest the wrong things. I was like, how can I best show him and teach him not to fall down these roads? Like, to realize that something like, drugs and alcohol, although when you're young, they may seem fun and they may numbify or stupefy you at the moment, you're literally creating neural pathways in your brain that's going to be bad for you in the long run. And you're going to have almost like a second stomach, for lack of a better expression, that needs to be fed that whatever ends in I-N-E or alcohol or whatever the thing may be. And he told me model. That's what Uncle Alex told me. Model the right behavior. So, since I got sober, I've tried to, we go to the gym together, we play basketball together, we do things together, we watch sports together. He sees me doing these creative things that I'm trying to do to show him, that you can have fun. You can be living a decent life without having to get messed up, without having to be escaping your circumstances, which is what I've done most of my life. So coping skills is very important. Obviously, you may have your own version of what I just said, and that's fair, right? But it's important that we teach them healthy coping skills, so therefore they can rely on their toolbox. But, I ask a room full of people, I say, who likes to fish? Who likes to go bowling? And they, people raise their hand. I say, well, until you did it, did you know that you even liked it? And they're like, nah, I didn't. So it's like being open to different coping ideas and different ways to deal with things. I mean, this morning I did some yoga for like an hour. Yoga with Adrian, YouTube. It's free. If you don't want to pay for ads, then you can subscribe to YouTube and do the membership fee. But you can watch Yoga with Adrian, and she does some phenomenal stuff for people that aren't too good at that stuff like me. So shout out to Yoga with Adrian, man. Very helpful resource. It's helped my overall health and wellness the last few years. The second thing on here, emotional regulation. So building resilience encourages kids to understand and manage their emotions, leading to better emotional health and reduced anxiety. Emotional regulation is something that we as a nation are just not good with. And you can read all about that. You can look it up on ways to be better at emotional regulation. But I think it does kind of start with the CBT approach, that cognitive behavioral therapy of, realizing your thoughts and your feelings will create actions, and thereunto pertaining back and forth all around it. You know what I mean? And then those certain high stress moments that kind of trigger all of it, your thoughts, feelings, and actions all at the same time. So how can we regulate our emotions? How can we not let our emotions get the best of us? Because I know I irritate some folks with saying this, but this too shall pass. You won't stay in one state forever, one certain emotion. You may think you will, but you won't. So how can we do that? Better regulate our emotions so we don't go high and to the right or go to a drastic measure over a simple circumstance or a temporary circumstance and think to make a permanent decision. And that could be hurting ourselves, hurting others, or just some other type of irresponsible decision because we're impulsive in that moment. We don't know how to regulate our emotions. And that takes time, and that takes awareness, and that takes knowing ourselves and getting to know ourselves. I mean, know thyself is just, I'm still learning. I'm still peeling back the layers and still trying to understand who I am, how I can be a better person. And I'm still trying to figure out. So nothing on here I share is because I'm so infinitely wisdom or I have an infinite amount of wisdom or I'm infinitely wise. It's just to share things because I hate to see people struggling. I hate to see people suffering. And, not living up to their best potential, not to be better than me, not to be better than her or him or them, but to be their best selves, right? And I think if we're honest with ourselves, whether it's a lack of coping skills or a lack of emotional regulation skills, a lot of us aren't living up to our full potential. And there's things that we can do. We can make choices to change things, and brick by brick, it adds up. So the third one with our kids, with young ones, is problem-solving abilities. Resilience fosters critical thinking, being able to break down problems, and problem-solving skills, helping kids approach obstacles creatively and with persistence. That thing is so important to me, persistence. I've had to really kind of meditate and think about that word lately. The Miyamoto Musashi had said that, and obviously Bruce Lee had talked about be water. I got it on my wrist right here, be water, my friend. He says be water, comma, my friend. People are like, didn't you say be like water? I'm sure he did at some point, but the quote is actually be water, my friend. So I'm just saying, so don't be judging my tattoos, okay? But be water. And what Miyamoto Musashi was talking about was that water can cut through rock simply by being persistent, and we all want to have overnight effects and overnight results. That's just not how things work. But if we can have those problem solving abilities and some of that emotional regulation and those coping skills, we can work through our problems in a reasonable manner, with a reasonable expectations, and continue to be persistent. And embrace challenges, because oftentimes the things we want to have happen don't, and we usually grow from that, right? And you kind of, you don't get what you want, but you get what you need. I saw a clip. I shared it on my story the other day. I think it was Raj from Different Strokes. Maybe no Raj. I can't remember the one with the shades on. It was Kadeem Hardison, whatever his name was. But he's talking to this girl, and he was talking about praying and getting what you want, what you need. He said when he was a kid, he had prayed that for Christmas he would get a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar basketball. And instead he looked under the tree and he had a red silly coat with a bonnet, like a Scully with the little pom-pom on the top. And he was like, man, he was sad he didn't get what he needed. And he said to the lady, he said, that winter it snowed and all the basketball courts were snowed in. So obviously he wouldn't have been playing basketball. And a lot of people got fevers and got frostbite that winter. But he was warm because he had that goofy little hat and that big red coat he didn't want. You know what I mean? So it's like you don't always get what you want, but you get what you need. And I just thought that was something powerful right there, in how to have, like I said, like a reasonable approach to critical thinking, to problem solving, to being resilient in our thoughts, and how we approach obstacles creatively and with persistence. So the fourth is confidence and independence. Well, why is resilience important for our kids? Because overcoming certain challenges gives them self-esteem and encourages them to take on new challenges, fostering a sense of independence. We can't always be there helicopter parenting or nerfing the world around them. They have to fall. That's how we learn how to walk, right? You fall, you get back up. If resilience wasn't a necessary thing for humans, we would never be what we are as far as literally upstanding, adults or creatures, right? We would never stop crawling. We would never even attempt to walk. And it sounds silly and it sounds stupid, but them babies, man, we know, we laugh at them. It's so funny. Little big heads, they're trying to sit up and they kind of fall over and stuff like that. But, they got to learn their way, and we have to allow them to do that. And that hurts. And that's hard. And I think I heard Dave Chappelle say it one time on Rogan. He was talking about being a parent. I think this is for any of us, whether you're a biological parent or you're a step parent or you're an uncle or you're an aunt or there's somebody young that you care about. But, it's like living with a piece of your heart, your body on the outside of you, and you have no control over it, and you're vulnerable. And we can listen to Brene Brown. She's amazing with the subject of vulnerability, but, just admitting that that's a hard thing to do, to allow them to gain confidence in their independence. But we have to allow them to do that. We have to allow them to fall, to fail, to keep, having those first attempts in learning. That's what fail stands for. First attempts in learning. Or I can even take it to Nelson Mandela when he talks about he never loses. He either wins or he learns. Or hopefully both, right? So we have to allow them to do that, because if not, if we nerf everything, if we allow them to be super achievers by helping them in every little detail of their life when we're not around, because that's going to come for them, whether it's by us passing away or by circumstances, they're going to be out there on their own. And if they fall and stumble then, and their boss tells them they suck at something, or they're fired, or they don't do good in that next level of education or that next accomplishment, they're going to fall apart because they've never had to feel that adversity to build the resilience, right? They never had the opportunity to. So we have to allow them to. It's just like Will Smith said when he talked about working out, exercise and lifting weights. You're really trying to reach the point of failure to where you can't do it anymore. Like you're seeking failure when you're at the gym, right? And again, I'm kind of a meathead, for lack of a better expression, not the best of meatheads. But a lot of I will go with the physical analogies to things. That's just where I'm coming from. So I hope it makes sense. But when you exercise, you're really trying to reach your peaks. You're trying to reach your points of failure. And that's where the growth is. And it's almost like a rule of life. So just allow them to do that. The fifth thing on this list is healthy relationships. Resilient children are often better at forming and maintaining positive relationships as they learn to communicate effectively and seek support when needed. What I love there is to seek support when needed. There's nothing wrong with saying I need help. My son was at a thing the other night, and he called me and said, "I'm ready to go. Can you come get me?" And I've taught them as best I can. I'm not here to preach or say, "Look at me," but if they're in a situation where it feels like the heat's coming, like something, you get that intuition. That doesn't mean walk around paranoid, but situationally aware. So we got him, and all worked out well. But there was a few weeks ago, he was at a football game down in Tidewater. It was Maury and Booker T were playing. He was at the game, and he kind of got a little spidey sense. It was like, "Hey man, let's roll." And he told the dudes he was with, let's go ahead and go. And not long after, there was some drama that popped off. And I want to say there was maybe shots fired in the area or something like that, or some type of vehicle thing or something. But it was situations and circumstances where he could have been in, right? But those healthy relationships, to have those friends around you, be careful with that F word, friend, to be able to say, "Hey, we need to roll. We need to switch some stuff up." And then also maybe I need some help, right? Because a lot of people want to help. And they don't know how to read your mind. They don't know that you need help. And some of us have so much pride, we don't even want to ask for help. But healthy relationships are so important. And it's something, man, it's different for every single individual you interact with. We're all as unique as our fingerprints. I really do believe in that. But I also believe, as Dr. Maya Angelou said, we're more alike than unalike. So how can we have good communication with each other to communicate effectively and to seek support when needed? That's another reason for healthy relationships. Plus, it's just, humans need humans, man. We need it. We can't avoid it. So we have to help them understand and have a judgment to find those healthy relationships, and then how to foster those, right? How to play nice, right? It's no different than, the sandbox at the playground. Play nice, be nice, treat people how you want to be treated, be a nice person. Don't be an asshole. And let's not let our kids be assholes either, because when they're being difficult humans. And why are people difficult, y'all? Because they're allowed to be. And if we allow them to be, well, just like I said, my mentor had told me a few years ago, little assholes become big assholes. So we got to check them, correct them. They don't know, right? And why are they being difficult? Well, because they're allowed to be, and because it works for them, right? And then the next one is academic success, but I also say professional success as well. But resilience contributes to better academic performance. As with kids, kids with resilience are more likely to stay motivated and engaged in learning despite setbacks. You can foster that growth mindset. And that opportunity to see this challenge as a challenge, to be able to grow, to be able to be better, but to put them in positions to where they can be challenged. Now, that doesn't mean they need something on their schedule every night of the week, but if that's what works for you and yours, great. But it's not all about achievement, right? Because I've heard this a lot lately. I've heard from, I think Rich Roll was talking about on his podcast. He's talking to Phil Stutz, a great doctor. It's a great episode if you want to listen to that. But we could be so set on making our kids achieve things that they're like, they can be children or humans that are just pleasers or just achievers. And that's how they settle them or equate their success in life. And there's a time and a place to push them, to encourage them, right? But not basing their love that they receive or their attention they receive based off of just conditional things as far as achievements. Like, you want to encourage them to do their best, right? And I know from having a few different kids, I have one, if she got a B, hey, that kind of hit way harder than my other one getting an A, because I know that, skill set wise, one is that it just doesn't come as natural, and one has to work harder for that B than the other one does for that A. And even though society standards and scholastic standards and academic standards, that A is better than the B, to me, I recognize that B it matters. But I also will take the time to acknowledge the A as well. But I know that one didn't have to work as hard. So I got to kind of know my people and know how to push the other one in the other direction. And actually, Nick Saban talks about in his book, What is Players, and how he, some kids will get a C or B B minus. And that was a great accomplishment because just, where they were coming from with it. So, academic success, professional success, but we can't be, little hamsters on the wheel and or we'll turn into puppies chasing our tail. And it's like the next thing, the next thing, the next accomplishment, the next thing. It's good to have goals. Okay. It's good to have goals. Don't let goals have you. I've been there before. And then once you accomplish them, you can fall out and be very, very depressed because you reached your mountaintop, and then what? Now what? Right. And last one, long-term well-being. Developing resilience early in life lays the foundation for a healthier, more balanced approach to future challenges, enhancing overall well-being into adulthood. So you're not just teaching them how to live right now or how to achieve and how to do these things right now, but we're showing them things day by day, right? And parenting's hard, man. Being there for young people is so hard. I was actually I went and saw Wild Robot with my toddler yesterday. That movie made me cry, man. Wild Robot is so good. The principles in there, the undertones, the messages, it's a beautiful story. I think everyone can identify with something in that little, what is it? I forgot. It's DreamWorks. That's what it is. So people make Shrek and stuff, but in there's a scene where the robot realizes they have to take care of this young thing. I won't tell the whole story, but there's another parent there, and the robot says, I don't have programming to be a mother. And she said, none of us do. We're all just figuring it out. You know what I mean? And that's the God's honest truth when it comes to raising these kids and to trying to be a good parent, to set them up, to guide them, right? By our example and by our consistent, unconditional love. Unconditional love matters so much. Like, I love you for who you are, not what you do or what you don't do, or whatever I perceive as your level of loyalty or achievement. No, I love you for you, and I'm here for you no matter what. That matters so much. And I heard Kobe Bryant talk about that when he was talking about his father, that there was a season when he was, I think, 13. He played in an AAU league, and he didn't score a point. His father pulled him in, and he said, look, son, whether you score 0 or 60, I'm still going to love you. And, in his mind, he was like, F that. I want to score 60. Of course. So does the father. But I'm going to love you no matter what. I'm going to be there for you. And these things I'm showing you now, they may grow into fruition later. They may make sense when somebody else says it, be like, oh, snap. My pop used to say that. My uncle used to say that. My mom used to say that, and I think we've all had that feeling. If you have any significant other or children, you'll be saying something forever. And then somebody else will say it and you go, I've been saying that. I'm telling you that. It just, we receive at different points. Things make sense at different points. But I think all of these things, these 7 things, the coping skills, the emotional regulation, the problem solving abilities, the confidence, independence, healthy relationships, academic success, and long-term well-being, and emphasizing those on a consistent basis and why resilience is important. Well, it may not pay off now, but it will pay off later. And they can use these things that really matter to live in a healthy life forever, right? And then you really know what was the effect you had on them or him or her or they or whatever. Are we helping them reach their best potential? That's the job of any leader, I think, is to help people be their best selves. And you can't always give them the answer, but you can kind of lay some framework out there and help show them the way, or help them to think and to ask questions and to ponder things and to, give them that framework. But we have to model it as well. So here's some ways that we can actually do some things, right? With all these other things up front, these were the why is resilience important? Why should we emphasize it? But here are some effective strategies that help make kids more resilient. All right. So I'm getting towards the end of this episode. I wanted to make it a quick one. So sorry for my pontificating and my philosophizing, but it's called a podcast. So you're welcome. Encourage a growth mindset. Man, you can look up Grit from Dr. Angela Duckworth. It is wow. And Dr. Carol Dweck had that whole growth mindset and having a fixed mindset. There's some things to read in there about being open-minded and being all the things we've already discussed, or I've discussed and said today. But teach kids that challenges and failures are opportunities for growth. Praise their efforts rather than just results, to foster a love for learning. And that's what we got to do for the rest of our lives. I told you I'm still trying to figure stuff out. I don't think anybody on this planet has figured it out or has made it. They may think they have, but they're about to be humbled, right? I'm just telling you, the more you know, the more I know I don't know, and the more I need to learn, right? But I think I've figured out some things along the way, but I ain't figured it out, if you get what I'm saying. So, but praise their efforts rather than just the results. Teach problem-solving skills. Guide children in breaking down problems into manageable steps and brainstorming potential solutions. Encourage them to think critically and explore various approaches. from various different, audiences and things like that. Not like stuck in a dogma. I mean, you can have your own beliefs and your own things that you want to stick to. I got that. I respect that. That's what we have the freedom for. But at the same time, not being married to one set of thinking, I don't want to digress anymore on that one. Foster emotional awareness, help kids recognize and label feelings. We got to recognize and say, hey, discuss emotions openly and teach them how to express their feelings in healthy ways. So we're back to what we were talking about earlier about the coping skills and emotional regulation. How can we express our emotions in healthy ways, whether it's through art, whether it's through work, whether it's through grit, whether it's through exercise, or whether it's journaling, writing. I mean, maybe I'll be honest with y'all, you probably already caught on already, but this is therapy for me. This is an effective, healthy way for me to manage my stuff, right? And then I have to live up to it. So it's kind of creating that external accountability, because I can't be over here talking all this shit and not at least trying to live up to it if I'm up here talking all it, right? All right, so the fourth one is model resilience. I told you, Uncle Alex told me this, but demonstrate resilient behavior in your own life. Share your experience with overcoming obstacles and strategies you used. One thing I learned, and I've been listening to the book on vulnerability from it's an audio book from Dr. Brene Brown, and she was talking about, if your kid comes home, nobody sat with them at the lunch table and nobody, wants to talk to them. She said you have to almost tap into your inner 13-year-old that was shunned, that didn't fit in, and let them know. And I've done this with my son before, man, because I was bullied a whole lot. I went through a lot of different stuff growing up, but always kind of felt on edge and was distracted by the things around me. I just didn't ever really feel, I guess, sometimes safe. Or maybe it was in my head. I don't know. But I definitely got my ass whooped a few times just for being who I am, where I was, when I was, how I was. But I told him he was going through a similar thing. And I said, man, it just fucking sucks, bro. It just sucks. And I'm here for you, but just know that it won't last. The high school kind of pressures and stuff like that. And he's doing well. He's good. But letting him know that I felt like that too. I felt like that as well. And we just keep pushing through, right? And don't allow another person to influence you in a negative way to be a worse version of yourself. All day long, allow people to influence you to be better versions of yourself. That's what we need. Steel sharpens steel. But I think it's sharing that example and being vulnerable, and then showing that you can and you will get through this, right? And be smart about it. I think that's what they're talking about right here with model resilience. All right. So, and then moving on, build strong relationships, encourage strong connections with family, friends, and mentors. A supportive network helps kids feel secure and valued. People need people, man. But be careful with that F word. Be careful with who you call friend. I've been having to learn lately the great quote, and I haven't memorized on my soul. But George Washington said, be courteous to all, but intimate with few, and let those few be well tried before you give them your confidence. So be smart about who you build those strong relationships with. Let them be well tried. Don't just give your heart to anybody. Don't just open your life up, be an open book to every single person. I'm not saying be guarded. There's strength and vulnerability, but to just walk around as a soft target, I don't know if that's a good thing either, but there's judgment there. And teach their own on how they plan on executing that. But, you can get hurt sometimes if you allow yourself to get hurt. But at the same time, you don't want to be totally guarded and totally with your guard up all the time, because you can't see maybe the good that's in front of you. So there is a play-by-play, day-by-day approach to that. Promote independence, allow kids to make choices and take on responsibilities appropriate for their age. This builds confidence and a sense of control over their lives. And look, this is hard. This is so hard to do, but I mean, you could Google this. You could look at some good resources. There are a lot of great authors out there, a lot of great doctors who study these things, but at the end of the day, we got to just we got to just figure it the fuck out. Right. But promoting the independence. I mean, that's what we are. And in the land I live in, at least, independence, you want to be independent. You want to be able to take care of your own shit and own your own shit. And extreme ownership is important. And I think that promotes independence. That extreme ownership from Jocko Willink, you can look him up, the book, him and Leaf, I forgot his last name, but him and a man named Leaf, both SEALs, extreme ownership. Look that shit up, man. Real good. Encourage risk taking. Scared money don't make no money, right? We got to take risks, right? I've told y'all many times on the show before, hey, that Constitution, I'll fucking die for it right now, proudly, right? But even that document I'm willing to die for, that we love It said a more perfect union. In order to form a more perfect, it didn't say perfect, it said more perfect. And then to prove that, we got 27 amendments in it. You know what I mean? So there's nothing that's perfect. So you have to, encourage to take a risk. Scared money don't make no money. Sometimes you got to be decisive and make a decision and just act, right? And have that, I think I was listening to Brene Brown with it too, have that accountability where you got to have that, or creativity. You got to be vulnerable to be able to be creative, to be able to be innovative. We can't say be innovative and be creative and then micromanage. And, you can't do that. So allow them to take risks and to kind of, give them enough lead to where they can not fall and totally fail and die, right? We want to keep them safe, but at the same time, you have to allow them to trip and stumble, just like we do when we watch these toddlers or babies try to walk around and stuff. I'm digressing there, but you get what I'm saying. And then talk about teach coping strategies, introduce relaxation techniques, mindfulness, and stress management strategies. Activities like deep breathing, journaling, or physical exercise can be very effective. I said this already, right? But teaching them healthy ways. Maybe it is fishing. Maybe it is hiking. Maybe it is working on their car, right? They don't know until they are in a position to figure it out. So let's do our best to help them figure it out. Not what we want them to do, but what they want to do that is healthy for them. And that, I'm still figuring out, how to have healthy coping strategies, right? Set realistic goals. That's a big thing, right? They talk about the SMART acronym. I don't know what it all says, but, having reasonable, realistic goals, help kids achieve achievable goals and celebrate their progress. This teaches them to work toward objectives and maintaining motivation. It really does. And motivation does wear off. You know what else does too? Showering. That's why Zig Ziglar said we have to do it every day. I stole that from Zig. He's the man, right? That's why I go by Cam Campbell, same inspiration as Zig Ziglar. His first name was Hillary. He was a World War II veteran. He's a bad dude, but he didn't want to go around like everyone talking about Hillary. So he go by Zig Ziglar. That's why I go by Cam Campbell. What's up? I love Zig Ziglar. Look him up too if you want some motivation. Look him up. I'm telling you right now, stinking thinking is killing us, literally. But set realistic goals is what it's talking about right now, and how to maintain that motivation. It comes, it goes. It really does. You can't depend on all of it. You have to depend on discipline, right? And consistency, way more than motivation, way more on a consistent basis. But we do still need motivation, and having those goals in front of you and how to chop down that tree, how to take that, a journey of 1,000 steps. You start with one step, but if you keep track of the steps, you can kind of maintain some progress and maintain some motivation. So what that means to you, I hope you receive it the right way and find a healthy way to put it in. I'm not here to try to tell you do these things, these exact ways. I'm just trying to share things to how we can build our young ones to take over for us and be a stronger generation, a more healthy generation, and be smarter and live up to their full potential better. They're not lost. They're not broken. They're not totally soft. If they suck, it's our fault, y'all. So we have to own that. And that's back to, we're talking about a second ago, having extreme ownership. So we have to own it. And remember, little assholes, little soft assholes become big soft assholes. So how are we going to do something about it? And if you don't like something, you change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. Don't just be a problem admirer. You could turn on the news on any outlet, okay? Anything. And you can see a whole bunch of problem admirers and opinionists and pundits and things. And God bless them. They gotta earn their paycheck too. And I got no hate for them. I'm just saying, I'm not interested in admiring these problems and saying this young generation is garbage. How about we help them? Because if you remember right, our generation was garbage too. Your generation was garbage too. And it kept going on. This too shall pass. So let's just not throw the baby out with the bathwater and just say they're screwed altogether. Let's try to help them be better. Last one, encourage perseverance. Emphasize the importance. Like I said earlier, water can't cut through rock, but it does over time, doesn't it? By being persistent. Emphasize the importance of persistence. Remind kids that setbacks are a normal part of life and that perseverance leads to success. I think I was listening to Alex Hermoso. He said his first 9 companies didn't even work out. Look at Steve Jobs. Just look at that stuff. Look at Abraham Lincoln's road to the White House. And by the way, when he got elected, the Civil War started and they had to hide him as they transported him to D.C. from Illinois to be in the election. You know what I'm saying? Like, to be in his sitting position as president. They had to have decoys and stuff. These people fell and failed and learned and grew. So if we can emphasize the importance of persistence, because sometimes you're just going to suck. It just doesn't work out. You shoot, you miss. Well, you also miss every shot you don't take as well. So you got to be able to encourage risk taking and encourage, reasonable risk taking, right? We don't want to play. You can't play soft, man. Scared money don't make no money. But how can we encourage them to be perseverant? How to encourage them to keep on fucking pushing? And one of the best ways is to love them, no matter what, and to model resilience for them. So some of these things I said today, I'm definitely taking note of for my damn self because I need to work on them. But in working on them, I can help the other ones, the young ones that I can influence. And we're here anyway. We may as well influence them for the best. You know what I'm saying? I know that makes sense to y'all. I know it does. But like it or not, man, we're all we got. And, like Jim Carrey said, dude, he said, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. So I got to ask you, I got to ask me, what's the effect we're having on these young ones? Are we just another talking head that's just saying that they suck and they doomed for everything? Or do we got to work a little bit harder to reach them in a different way? Because they'll call us out. They'll Google us and they can tell if we're being disingenuous. You can see fake real quick nowadays. If for nothing else, this social media stuff, we can point out and see when somebody's being fake and not real about shit. So be real with them, be genuine, and teach them how to be resilient. And this is why resilience is so important for our kids. This is just a quick little thing with the help of ChatGPT and some research on my own. I was able to figure out some of this stuff, but I think more of us know this than don't. We know these things are true, but just a few tangible ways and then a few just, principled ways to be able to build resilience and why resilience is important for our kids. Because let's be honest, we live in a time that the circumstances may not make them resilient all on their own. We may have to do a little extra work with these young generation and be able to teach them to be able to provide. But no matter if it was 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, or right now, our job is still to provide for them. It's still to guide them. And it's just a different set of circumstances. Are we going to admire the problem or are we going to do something about it? You know what I'm saying? And I mean, what I want to say is each hardship comes. Maybe the hardship is trying to make this next generation more resilient. Well, we were practicing for this. We were training for this. Let's embrace it. Let's try to have a good effect. We're here anyway. We may as well have a good effect. All right. I want to thank my friend Nicole for being a gladiator that she is and for inspiring me to do this episode. She hit me up and she suggested this. And by all means, anyone else, if you have a subject you think that we should talk about or put out there, please, please, please just send it to me. I'll try my best to deliver it the right way. Or if you want to be a guest and you got something you want to express, please, I welcome that as well. But I will never press and DM people or message people and say, be on my show, be on my show, be on my show. I don't think it works out good like that. I think it's better for people to organically listen and see what we're doing here and then be like, okay, I want to be a part of that because I don't care if you're 5 or 85. If you're still alive, you know something about how to thrive and be resilient because you wouldn't be here, right? And so far, you have survived every single bad day in your life. So I just say, please keep moving on. I'm gonna put a show notes in here for this hoodie. I don't try to endorse. I don't make any money off of ads, but I will share things that are cool. There's an organization called S.A.D, Stay Another Day. Wow, S.A.D, Stay Another Day, and it's about suicide prevention and trying to stop people from making permanent decisions over temporary problems. And one of the hoodies actually is really dope. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get one for my kids, but on there is like it lists out reasons to stay another day. And it's just so beautiful. So it's just flipping the look at of something like an ugly word like sad that we all look at as a bad word, right? Sad. Well, here's an acronym, Stay Another Day. And that's what I hope all of you will do. There are young ones looking up to us, looking at us. And if you don't think they are, they are. And just please don't choose a permanent decision or temporary circumstances. Please don't. Your pain ends, but everyone else's begins. Your pain ends, but everyone else's begins. So please hang on, stay with us, and please don't make a permanent choice over temporary circumstances. I got nothing but love for all of y'all. We're going to go ahead and ride on out to the sounds of the great Monchichi Rex. Look him up, man. Second Winds. What a more fitting title for a song for a show like this. I may have said a few things, but we're not sponsored by anyone, or as I like to say often, we're sponsored by nobody, baby. This has been Real Resilience Talk 51. Talk about how can we make ourselves and our kids more resilient. Much love to all of y'all. If you ever want to be a guest, hit me up. All right. Much love to all of y'all. Make good choices.